Let's bring in Ross Feingold, who is the former Asia chairman of Republicans Abroad, and he joins us from Taipei. Ross, it's good to have you on the show. Now, authorities are going to start relying on Title 8. How is Title 8 different from Title 42?
Well, the simplicity of Title 42 is that it's a section of the U.S. federal law that basically declared a health emergency due to COVID-19. And that allowed for the immediate expulsion of people who came across the border, even if they were seeking asylum claims. So Title 8 is merely reverting to the situation that existed before the pandemic and the use of an emergency authority to immediately expel people who entered into the United States, notwithstanding that they were claiming asylum. The big problem with the previous legal regulatory regime under Title 8 is, as everyone says, the system was overwhelmed. It couldn't cope with the number of people coming across the border and claiming asylum. There's not enough officers to patrol the border. There's not enough immigration judges. It's the same issues that have not been resolved. So what the Biden administration is trying to do is, under the previous or the existing, one could call it, Title 8 authority, they're still trying to add some changes within the scope of their own regulatory authority, which does not require going back to Congress to pass a new law. And that's why they're talking about things like having to first apply for asylum in a country in which the migrant transits.
Republicans argue that repealing Title 42 threatens border safety. Would you agree with that?
Well, the problem there is, again, Title 42 is something that has to do with health emergency, and it was an authority that could be invoked because there genuinely was a health emergency. So describing it as revoking Title 42 is a big mistake, is not really accurate in the sense that the argument should be there are serious problems and we need to fix it. But we simply can't rely on Title 42 because that has to do with a health emergency. So I think a stronger argument for the Republicans would be to focus on legal changes, and that's why the Republicans in the House passed a bill, but ultimately, because the Senate's controlled by Democrats and the White House is controlled by a Democrat as well, the House Republicans are going to have to work with the Democrats to find a solution that everyone could agree with.
Right, and why do you think that the Biden administration is making this move now and repealing Title 42 and replacing it with Title 8?
Well, the genesis of removing Title 42 is simply the end of the health emergency, and that legal approach that the health emergency has ended. It's something that most people in the United States wanted, including Republicans in Congress, and it has to do with a whole range of actions that the government does. The border enforcement and changes in border enforcement rules as a result of the health emergency is only one aspect of the overall legal and regulatory approach when there is a health emergency, and that all the other issues such as vaccination requirements and things like that. So it's kind of by popular demand that the federal government is saying that there is no more health emergency. But you can't say there's no more health emergency in the country and then say there's still one at the border and we have to keep Title 42 in place. It's kind of contradictory. So that's why the health emergency authority kind of needs to go away at the border as well. But again, what Republicans should be focusing on is talking about how do we go forward and what do we replace it with and what kind of legal changes. And ultimately, this comes down to money as well. We know that we have this debate over default and budget cuts. But if there are going to be significant changes and better enforcement, then there's going to have to be a lot of money involved. And hopefully the Democrats and the Republicans can agree on that. But where there really is a tremendous gap and which makes difficult negotiations very difficult is the Republicans' demand for a wall. And the Democrats, they just never liked the idea of building a tall wall at the southern border.
All right, Ross Feingold, thank you so much for being with us here on the NewsHour.